Welcome to another episode of The Profile. Tonight, on the couch with a comfy chair, is a wonderful friend of mine. His name is Ross Mitchell. Welcome to the show, Ross.
GD, how are you?
Mate, we've been trying to get you on this show for, I don't know, 8 months? No, 3 years. It's only been going for 2. You know, it's great that you finally come in.
Good to be
Albeit
here.
I had to pick you up and bring you here
Good to be here.
in chains.
Give you a few backgammon lessons on the way.
I thought we weren't going to mention that, Oscar.
Okay.
It's funny because my producer's actually put a nice little backgammon game here and says, don't mention the backgammon. Look, Roscoe, let's get serious, mate. You've had your massage, you've been in the canteen, you've been to the bar. We've both been to the bar by the looks of it. Mate, where were you born?
I was born here, Subiaco,
Wow.
Western Australia.
King Edward or?
St John of God.
Oh, okay. We've got 50-50 on that at the moment. Well, some people King Edward, some people St John of God.
Well, there wasn't too many choices in those days.
Yeah.
Just after the war.
Yeah. What instruments do you play? Do you play an instrument or?
No. Tambourine.
Tambourine? But obviously you're a singer, yeah. That's what we know you for. So what was the turning point in your life, Ross, that you decided I'm going to be a singer?
It was a whole lot of coincidences. The first time I ever sang in public was when I was about 10 years old, and it was at a Sunday school concert. And funnily enough, I sang How Great Thou Art, which was an Elvis song at the time. You know? So I was thinking, I must have been into Elvis then, you know. And then when I was about 15, I left school, and I got a job in a building company and as office boy. And the guy that was moving up from office boy to the next rung was Rory O'Rourke, the real estate man.
Yeah. O'Rourke Realty.
Yeah, he's 2 years older than me, and anyway, he took me under his wing, and I remember I was in a sleep out in my house at home, 15, and I snuck out one night at midnight, and Rory picked me up around the corner and took me to Anzac House, which was a big sort of dance at the time. But and so we're inside, and one of the band's singers was sick that night. And they were calling people out of the audience to sing songs. And Rory was going, oh, come on.
Get up.
So I did. So there I am at like 1 o'clock in the morning or whatever. I'm supposed to be home in bed in my pyjamas. And I was on stage at this
Anzac
big
House.
dance, So I sang Sick and Tired. But I guess it gave me a bit of a taste for it all. Then a couple of years later, I would have been 16, a neighbour and I went down to a coffee lounge, which was the big go in those days. You sort of sat around drinking coffee. I didn't drink at all until I was 24. So
Coffee or?
No, booze.
Oh, right.
But it was coffee. Coffee was the big thing. And so we go to this coffee lounge, and there's only 2 other people there, 2 guys. So we got to talk to them, and it turned out that it was Vern Goff and Jeff McCauley, a drummer and a bass player from a band called Johnny and the Martells. So we gave them a lift home and befriended them. So we started going to gigs and parties and stuff with them, sort of hanging out with them. And then I don't know what the occasion was, but Johnny left the Martells. And they asked me to sing.
Wow.
You know, it was just out of the blue kind of thing. So that's what happened, and we changed the name to the VIPs, and that was the first band that I was in.
That's my first question. 1966, first
Yeah.
band VIPs. Who was in that band? And you've just answered that before I could ask it. Great. And so you filled in with the Clam?
Yeah, the Clan.
Why? The Clan.
Yeah, what happened was I'd only been singing for 2 months. My legs were still shaking on stage, and I was a nervous wreck for months.
So
you know.
you had a problem with getting up there,
Just
or
nervousness,
just nerves?
inexperience,
Yeah.
you know. And anyway, I got Glenn Ingram was the singer, and they recorded a song called the Skyboat Song.
Yep.
And Glenn Ingram went over to the eastern states to do all the television shows.
Yep.
And he was, and they asked me to replace him for a
Wow.
week while he was over there
Yep.
promoting this record. Like, I've been in the business 2 minutes. It was just, and then all of a sudden I'm on stage with, like, you know, Terry Walker and
Wow. Yeah.
Jim McRoberts and
Yeah.
Ian Riddington and Russell Kennedy, and
Yeah.
it's just amazing.
Yeah.
So that sort of really
Kicked it off.
sort of got me
Going,
pretty
yeah.
interested.
So 67, a band called The Rebound. What sort of songs did you play, and who was in that
Well,
band?
the VIPs were doing okay, but it was very hierarchical in those days, you know. There was the top bands. Everyone wanted to be the top band in Perth,
Yeah.
which was unmistakably the Troubadours. You
Yes.
know, there's no
Yeah.
question about it. They were making more money, and they were better. You
Yeah,
know, they were
yeah, yeah.
fantastic. And so I was, you know, we were part-time, they were full-time. And the part-time band that was getting the most work in Perth was a band called The Vagrants.
Yep.
And they asked me to join them. So I thought, oh, well, you know, couldn't go full-time. I had a job, and
Yeah.
but it, you know, worked out really well.
Yeah.
When I joined the Vagrants, they changed the name to the Rebound,
Yeah.
and then
Who was in that band, Ross?
the Rebound.
Yeah.
Doug Wilkinson was
Yeah.
a bass player. Malcolm Booth was the guitarist. Vern Goff was the drummer. And who else is there?
Don't know, I wasn't
I
there.
can't remember anybody
Yeah.
else.
No,
but
that's
there
cool.
was
No problem.
Probably somebody else.
You'll walk away tonight
Oh,
saying...
no, sorry.
You'll walk away tonight probably saying, God, I forgot to mention them. And
Yeah,
them and,
yeah.
But that's okay. I mean, you know.
Yeah, so...
We don't edit. It's just what it is, so that's fine.
and one of those guys, excuse me,
It's all right.
I got approached by Brian Hayton, who was an English guy who grew up in Bolton, just near Manchester. And he
Second.
came out as a 15-year-old.
Yeah.
And he brought all, like, the Beatles music
Yeah.
with him. And actually, I think he was in the Vagrants as
Yeah.
well.
Yep.
And he said to me, look, and the Troubadours are cleaning up, they're making all this money. And the big thing was their vocal harmonies, but it was all like American music. And Brian had the idea of doing a harmony kind band, but with doing English groups.
Okay, yep.
Because he'd grown up, I think he even played in the Tornadoes.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
had Telstar or
Yeah.
Telstar or something. So that's what
Wow.
so we put the Statesmen together, and we went for the drummer was Mike Byram, who had a really high voice, could
Yeah.
hit the notes on Mecca and
Yeah.
good vibrations
Yeah.
and all that, and we recruited John Tower, who is a bass player who also had a bass voice, and Peter Kamusky, who is the hot guitarist
player,
around
yeah.
town,
Still is.
and Brian, who was wonderful with vocal
Yeah.
harmonies and all that, playing guitar as well. So yeah, that was the Statesman, and we went on and had a pretty good career.
Yeah, Statesman were pretty big, weren't they?
Yeah, did all right.
And would you say that was the biggest band you were in per se, or in that? Cause
most popular, definitely. Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
We were doing, a lot of everyone was, but six nights a week, 2-3 jobs a day.
Yes.
It wasn't unusual,
So 3 years later, 1971, you joined Trinity. So obviously something happened in the Statesman.
Yeah, well,
you went to Singapore for 6 months.
One of the ideas with the Statesman was to that we would use it to travel. In those days, P&O used to run cruises, and you could get a berth to London playing on the way. And we wanted to use the band as a ticket.
Yep.
And despite trying to do that, it was never successful.
Yeah.
And I just got to a point in the States where I just thought, there's more of the same, I don't know, I started losing interest. And we were a very regular band at Pinocchio's, and I said to Howie Sangster one day, look, if an opportunity comes up away from, like on the administrative side of the entertainment business, give us a yell. So anyway, I had enough of the Statesman. I left them. But the next morning I got a call from Ian Ironside, the drummer.
Yep.
And he said, he's putting a band together to go up to Singapore for a contract. Did I want to join? And I said, have you got a keyboard player? He said, no. I said, well, I'll join if Mike Nelson joins as well.
Perfect. Yeah.
And because he was in the last Statesman. And so that's what happened. We joined there, and it was a 7-piece band, trumpet and sax, and off we went to Singapore.
Perfect. 6 months of bliss.
Yeah, well, I never lasted the 6 months because just before we left, Howie Sangster said to me, remember you said to me, oh no, mate, I've been hanging out to travel. It's finally happened for me, and now you're doing this. He said, well, why don't you go up for 3 months and then, I said, I've signed a contract, Jimmy Lee,
No, you don't.
You don't mess around with Jimmy. So anyway, I did. I went to Jimmy and said, look, this is the situation, and he got me out of the contract, and it was quite difficult for him because the guy at the hotel liked me, and he wasn't very happy about it, Mr. Lim.
Well, I only knew Jimmy Lee as a booking agent when he was with Focus and smashing desks and chopping bits of wood and people's heads and stuff. But I saw him when I interviewed Peter Nell a little while ago, in the clip at the end, and his harmonies and his smile and his vibe was just unreal.
He was a good. I liked him. He was a good guy, and he never did wrong by me.
Yeah.
Although I never really worked for him, other than that.
No, I'm not saying he did wrong by me.
No.
He was very aggressive.
He was pretty tough.
Yeah, pretty tough. So.
But so what happened was I went up to Singapore, and then Bob Marr, excuse me, Bob Marr was the manager at Pinocchio's, and when Howie rang, he said, I want you to be the entertainment manager at Pinocchio's.
Yeah.
So I did 3 months in Singapore, and he flew Bob up to meet me in Singapore, and then we went to Hong Kong and Manila together, looking for bands to bring back to Pinocchio.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so
that's what started it, because it says here you come back and give up singing. Why? You've just answered that. So you moved into being a promoter, to bringing acts over from England. And so on. Who were those acts?
Well, what happened was, at the end of the day, there wasn't enough work for an entertainment manager at Pinocchio, to be honest. So I started. I went and I joined. Went into partnership with Jimmy Chaplin.
Yep.
And we formed a company called Combined Entertainment, and we booked rooms and bands and whatnot for a while. And then Jim and I had a bit of a falling out. And I went on my own, Ross Mitchell and Associates. And I went to England. I was married at the time to a ground hostie for Cathay Pacific.
Okay.
So I got cheap airfares, and so I went over to England and signed a whole lot of bands to bring back here. Jerry Marsden from the Pacemakers and the
And they were pretty
Searchers.
huge still then.
Oh,
yeah.
this was, you know, when I picked him up from the airport, I was as green as grass, and I'm thinking this guy was just on top of the charts like 3 or 4 years prior. You know, it was amazing.
Yeah.
But there was a lot. Wayne Fontana, he was a great guy. Had a great run with him. Billy J. Kramer, PJ Proby, Freddie and the Dreamers.
Wow.
Yeah,
Some
the
great
Peddlers.
names. Yeah. So where did you book those acts mainly?
Oh, I had set up a circuit. We had a whole lot of pubs and clubs and
Yeah, cool. Your tea's getting warm, mate. So, so you moved to Sydney in 1975 to manage Johnny O'Keefe. Who else did you rip off? It says here. No.
Oh, cut it out.
That's what it actually says. Look.
He's got it in for me, hasn't he? All the booze bottles. And
No, so come on. Can you tell us about Johnny O'Keefe?
Simo, what are you going against me?
Mate, we've got to have some comedy on the show, you know.
That's a laugh.
Yeah. So 1975, Johnny O'Keefe. Can you tell me about all that?
Well, when after that, I did a tour with JOK.
Yeah.
I can't remember how it came about. And then the following year, Bob and I started a company called Boss International.
Yep. Which became Boss Entertainment.
Which is Boss Entertainment now. He's kept the name. But it was Bob and Ross.
You still got shares in Boss Entertainment?
No, unfortunately.
Yes.
That's how the name came about, Bob and Ross. And anyway, that kind of we were working away at that, and he said, "Look, you're the only he'd double booked Jerry Marsden, who'd come back the year later after me for Paul Dainty, and he said, I've double booked Johnny O'Keefe and Jerry Marsden, and you're the only bloke in Perth that I know that can handle O'Keefe. So would you do his tour? So I did. It became a bit of a competition between Jerry and thing because they were in the same time. And we were going to a gig one night, and John said to me, how would you like to live in Sydney? And I said, sounds all right. He said, I'd like you to come over. So, fair enough. This is going to a gig one night. And then the following night, we're going to the gig, and he said, where do you want to live in Sydney? And I didn't know Sydney, I'd heard of Double Bay, so
perfect place in the eastern suburbs.
I said Double Bay. And anyway, it turned out he lived in Double Bay, and I moved over there and lived with them for 6 months.
Cool.
With him and Maureen, and then got my own place.
Because that you stayed for 10 years, didn't you, in Sydney?
Yeah. Well, we kept the agency going after John died, and we were still there was Dinah Lee and Jade Hurley, and they were all part of the stable. Tony Worsley.
Because you come back to Perth in 1985, and how much did Perth change there? Because I know that I met you, I think, in 1986, and when I was playing, you were booking a band called The Dream that I was in with Tony Woodward and Rob Watson.
Right, yeah.
And I think I went to your Christmas party and met Carl's Pink's wife, Bear. How are you, Heather? And Carl. And so that's when I sort of first met you. And I think you were booking us in the casino. I think you had the...
Yeah, well, when I came back from Sydney, excuse me.
That's all right.
I came back...
you broke 8 ribs recently.
Yeah. I came back to go after the job of Director of Entertainment at the Burswood Casino, which was just being built. And there was a big fuck up with the with my application, and so
There was a big fuck up with my pay, I've got to tell you, at that time.
yeah, not from me. No, anyway, I got onto the guy in charge and said, well, you haven't answered me, and what's going on? He said, I've already filled that role. But for them, the entertainment director was more about setting up the acoustics and the technical side of the room. But he said, but you book entertainment, so don't work for us, be the consultant, which I did for 3 years, and booked all the entertainment.
The Cabaret Lounge was just nuts, wasn't it?
From
it was
3 o'clock in the
fantastic.
afternoon till 3 o'clock in the morning.
You're booking 3 different bands, or 4 bands, was it?
4 3 hours each.
Yeah.
And 6 nights a week. It was a great gig for people, the musos.
No, it was just great. We were doing 7 or 6, 7 nights a week there, and the Sandringham on a Sunday session, so 8 gigs a week.
Yeah.
Then, so.
Yeah, no, they were good. It was good for the musos, and I was recently out of band, so I was on their side as well.
We actually got more money then than we're getting now in the casino.
Yeah.
I'm being serious.
Yeah.
It was more money then.
Yeah, it was. It was
That's
good.
what, 30 years ago. So.
Yeah. So then after I'd got back from Sydney and I was applying for this job, I'm a mad Subiaco footy club. I was a member all my life, pretty much.
Okay, that's it. End of the interview, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
And I went to a game after I came back from Sydney, and there was a guy sitting in the corner playing Elton John songs, and after a game in the members' lounge, and it was packed. And
Is that Dennis Bryant?
yeah, well, I felt sorry for this guy. I mean, there was no one listening to me. It was just So I went over and introduced myself, and he said, his name was Dennis Bryant. No, it was Brian Dennis.
No, Bryant.
He called himself.
Yeah, but it was Dennis
Bryant was his real name. He called himself Brian Dennis. And I said, he asked me, and I had just come back from Sydney and JOK and all that. And he said, I'm developing this character called Kevin Bloody Wilson. So, the next morning I woke up, and on my doorstep was 2 cassette tapes that he had made at home. Oh, no, he actually made them up in Wanneroo shelter. And, I thought, Jesus, that's pretty impressive, because he had sort of said, well, I don't know. I guess the opportunity there to manage him was there, so I thought, oh, that was pretty efficient, the next morning getting up and I, because I'd never heard heard his stuff.
Well, he's just gone from strength to strength and made a lot of money,
So,
and
I said,
he's filled that gap of crudism, I suppose, but just a natural Australian comedy.
Well, at the time I'd just got the job at casino, and I thought the two don't go together. I said to my brother, who's a businessman, come and listen to this. It was pretty outlandish.
Oh, yes.
So Santa Claus and all that.
Yes.
And so he.
Can you remember the words to any of his famous
songs? He said, look, if you
or?
think you can make money out of him, do it. I took it on. And then lucky enough to cross paths with Bill Blissett.
We just happen to be sitting over there. How are you, Bill?
Who was manager of bloody CBS Records.
Yes.
And he alerted the Sydney office to Kevin Bloody, and and we ended up doing a record deal with them. And
great, fantastic.
Yeah,
it's amazing, isn't it? What happens in opportunity?
Oh,
one thing door closes,
good
another
5
opens.
years that I was with him. We was top of the charts there for a while, and no airplay. It was all word of mouth.
So, Ross, let me ask you, what do you think of the music industry today? Right now, what's your take?
I don't really have anything to do with it. I go around to John Lemin's every 2 weeks, and with a few of the boys, and we sit around and sing songs, and that's about the limit of it for me these days.
Yeah.
But I don't get out to gigs, Gaz. I don't really know. I don't know how to answer that.
Well, you're going to come
it's a shame because we had it so good, you know.
Yeah.
So many gigs.
Wonderful.
Every venue put bands on. Live entertainment was everything I loved, you know. And
yeah, I've got to tell you, like, the pay's worse now than it was 30 years ago. There's less gigs. There's more. It's hard. It's just very difficult. But you love music. You want to play music, so you play it.
Yeah.
And I think everyone's always taken advantage of that. But anyway, let's move sideways a little bit. So, what's your earliest influence by a musician or band, Ross? Who influenced you the most, you think?
Well, I suppose Elvis to a degree, because, as I said, I sang that Elvis song in church when I was a kid.
That was a light bulb moment, wasn't it, boy?
Well, that was the first time, you know, I guess something clicks into you.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I don't know. What was the question?
Your earliest influence by a musician or band?
Oh, yeah. Well, I reckon Elvis. Elvis was a lot. I ran into a guy, a kid that was a neighbour, and we used to ride to school.
Yeah.
And I ran into him, like, not so long ago, 50 years later. And I hadn't seen him in all that time. And he said, I remember, because he'd heard about me being in bands and all that. And he said, I remember riding to school, and we'd be riding down the footpath, and you were going, 1 for the money, 2 for the show. So there was another Elvis song. So I guess he was an influence at the time.
So what other jobs have you had throughout your life, apart from booking and as a musician? Is there anything else you've done?
Well, I started off in the building trade.
Yep.
And I did a building course, started a building course.
You were in real estate at one time, or not?
Oh, yeah, I've done real estate. Yeah, I've done, you know.
Yeah.
I've sort of in and out of the entertainment business after Kevin. I got involved with Brenton Fosdyke with his Neil Diamond show.
Yeah, that was great too. It's still going.
Sensitive New Age cow persons.
All right, yeah.
You know, that was another story altogether, but we had quite a bit of a success.
Do you want to talk about that story, or do you want
have we got time?
Well, we got time, Stormy? Yes, we got time.
Oh, what happened was Kevin, we carried a band around touring with Kevin.
Yeah.
Lucky Oceans and Jim
Fantastic
Fisher
players.
Yeah, terrific.
Awesome.
Ian Simpson.
Yes, I interviewed Ian. He had his banjo sitting there every time he talked. It resonated. It went.
Yeah, wonderful player.
Oh, fantastic.
But after the Kevin Bloody Wilson, I got a call from Jim Fisher saying, I've got this thing together called Sensitive New Age Cow Persons, which was a comic, excuse me,
Okay.
a lot of comedy, and but it was bluegrass music. So they'd do Andrew Lloyd Webber medley, but bluegrass style, and
yeah, it's great.
all that sort of stuff. It was a terrific little band, and really going places. So I ended up, asked them to. Was approaching 3 years before the Winter Olympics. So I said, well, what about writing a nationalistic song, like "Come On Aussie, Come On" or something, so that we can, cash in on the on the Olympics. And anyway, they came up with a thing called the new Australian National Anthem. Yeah. And it was bits and pieces of all Australiana songs up there, Kazali and Skippy and everything. And the ABC picked it up, the radio, and they started playing it right across the country. So I went to Sydney and ended up getting a record deal with who was it? I think it was Warner's.
Yeah.
And we recorded an album, and ABC was playing it right across the country and in the country areas mostly, but also in the cities. And so then they flew us over to Melbourne and Sydney to do a promotional run, TV and radio and all that sort of stuff. And then and I'd taken 6 months off work to get it to this stage,
Yeah.
you know, because we'd just done the whole country with Kevin Bloody Wilson
Yeah.
to us, so I had all the contacts,
Yeah.
everything ready just to slot this.
Yes.
And the cow persons fitted perfectly
Slotted
into
right
that,
in perfectly,
the
yeah.
country
Yeah.
area and all that. So we returned from Sydney after the promo tour, and the next day Jim sadly had a massive hemorrhage,
Wow.
which required him to get a liver transplant,
Oh no.
and took 12 months to get a liver and then 12 months to recover. So that whole thing went down the drain, and I was absolutely shattered because we got it to that stage and it was just going
Yeah.
along beautifully. The next stage was go out and work all around Australia and make money, and it never happened. So,
Unfortunate.
yeah,
Unfortunate.
so that was pretty much the point for me. I said, "No, enough's enough. I'm out of here," and I pretty much gave up the entertainment industry after that. I only did bits and pieces.
So, if you were stranded on a deserted island, Roscoe, what's the one album? What's the music you want to listen to?
Yeah, I thought about
you
this,
take one
Gaz,
album.
and
Tell me.
it was an immediate choice.
Tell me.
Songs in the Key of Life,
Wow.
Stevie Wonder.
Stevie Wonder. Yeah.
One, because it's 2 albums.
Hang on. You've just broken the code of ethics here.
No, he's
Have to be that.
the master
Yeah.
as far as I'm
Yeah.
concerned.
I interviewed someone a little while ago who was saying that. I can't remember who it was, but anyway.
Probably Alan Lyford, maybe.
Yeah, could have been. And favourite TV show growing up? What do you watch? What do you like? I know the viewers are really interested in this question.
Yeah, well, I mean, as a little kid, when we first got our I remember the first show I ever saw was Fury,
All right.
which I loved,
Yeah.
and Cheyenne and all those.
Yeah.
You know, but once I got into I didn't watch much TV because we were working all the time.
Bonanza would have been big in.
Bonanza was big, yeah. 77 Sunset Strip.
Yes.
All
shouldn't
good
say yes,
Warner
I'd say-
Brothers. Yeah, this was a Warner Brothers
Yes.
television production. Yeah,
It's so serious, wasn't it?
yeah,
Those
it
days.
was fantastic.
So do you have any unfulfilled ambitions, Roscoe?
No, I don't think so.
Do you mind if I call you Roscoe?
Not at all.
Um,
No, missed opportunities perhaps. Perhaps some regrets along the
one
way.
you were
but-
just talking about with Jim Fisher and Ian Simpson
Oh,
and co.
that was
you know?
definitely big, but
Yeah.
even before that
Uncontrollable.
in Singapore, you know, getting out of the singing.
Yes.
Well, it could have been different if I had stayed and toured around Asia, and
Yeah.
who knows?
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know, but
So do you collect anything?
collect anything.
Yeah, like toy
Only
soldiers
my
or
thoughts.
nothing at all.
No, not really.
Backgammon chips or
No, not even money.
So I've got a question here that says, what would you put on your gravestone? But you've sort of said, don't ask me that. So I won't ask you that. I'm going to ask you, what would you put on your gravestone?
Flowers.
Flowers. See? It's a perfect answer. That is perfect. No one has ever said that to me, and that's so natural, isn't it? Flowers. Who would have thought? Flowers.
Simo.
That was going to be his for the 101st episode, was it? When I finally get to interview him. Yes. Wait till he's sitting in the comfy chair, mate. So is there anyone you've forgotten to mention that you might think of? Because I know you're going to walk out of here going, I forgot to mention him and her. And,
only one thing
yes,
was, which I thought was quite funny. My dad used to sing around the house a bit, because I often wonder, how I ended up doing what I was doing. And he could hold a tune, and he'd always sing around the house and all that. But in the army, his mates called him Bung Crosby.
Bung Crosby.
Which I thought was pretty clever. But no, I haven't.
Do you know, Roscoe, you're the first person to take 45 minutes to answer the question of what was the turning point in your life that made you start, the light bulb moment. You just answered it for me. It's perfect. That's great. We finally get there in the end. So is there something you could share with us and you don't have to, there's no pressure, that no one knows about, apart from the fact that we played backgammon for the first time 2 weeks ago. I've never played before in my life. I just have to mention this for Carl Pink because he's just going to be pissing himself.
You've played before in your life.
I've never played backgammon, and you showed me how to play, and I whipped you apart.
Well, you've got to give confidence to beginners, mate.
Yes. I'm coming back after you get back from holidays.
I'll be there
rematch.
waiting.
I know you will be. No, I had so much fun at your place as well.
Yeah, good.
And
good
you're
fun.
You're a great friend. So
I
love
indeed.
spending time with you. And
thanks, mate.
Mate, is there anything that we don't know about you or that you want to share with the audience? Or
No.
No?
Nothing.
Okay. Well, on that note, I will just say don't forget to subscribe to the profile on YouTube, www.theprofile.com.au, and you can see it. I think 80 odd, 90 odd episodes now we're up to, and look, it's wonderful having you here, mate. Listen to your stories.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, thanks for coming in, mate. Really appreciate it.
Good on you, mate.
Cheers, Roscoe.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Ross Mitchell, we're going to hear a clip.
Probably not. I don't think there is any.
No clip.
No.
No clip.
No.
Sensitive New Age Cowboys. We could probably put that up. This would be the first time we haven't had a clip, but maybe we will have a clip. Thanks for joining us. See you next time. Good night, WA.
At ProCopy, we can transfer audio to CD, make CD, DVD and Blu-ray copies, transfer video to DVD, Blu-ray or HD, digitize slides and photos, and supply custom USBs. You can see more details at procopy.com.au or call us on 08 9375 3902 for more information.